Welcome back to Narrator's Cut.
This movie is called Escape Room, where six people from all walks of life compete in an escape room competition for a chance to earn a prize of $10,000. When they find themselves in harrowing situations, things begin to turn around. The interior of a quaint, old-fashioned room can be seen. Someone jumps from the roof and rushes for a wall with a 10-number puzzle on it, which requires a 4-digit code to be solved to pass through. As he reaches for clues, one of the walls begins to move in on him, causing him to become panicked. He believes he has located it in a book, but suddenly he trips and falls to the ground. He attempts to decipher the hint from the 4 paintings in the room, but the wall is getting closer. When his entered code did not work, he becomes even more distraught, yelling that he has reached the end of his rope. The wall crushes his leg and he falls. Zoe can be seen walking to school 3 days before this scene. When the lecturer inquires about the quantum Zeno effect, she's something she knows nothing about in class. She has the answer written down in her notebook, but she has difficulty raising her hand to respond. The class is dismissed as soon as the bell sounds, but the professor invites Zoe to speak with her alone. He compliments her on her work, and he attempts to assist her in breaking out of her shell by urging her to do one thing that scares her over the break period. A motorbike arrives in a commercial district, and we next show Jason at his office where he is on the phone, finalizing a business transaction. When Ben's employer walks into the store, he is tagging items at the rear of the store. He asks him for a new post, but he refuses to provide it since he does not want to give it to him. His employer advises him that if he wants to move forward, he must stop drinking. Jason returns to his workplace to find a surprise waiting for him in the form of a black box that appears to be impossible to open with one's hands. Jason believes it was sent to him by a client. Zoe returns to her room and converses with her roommate, who is not impressed by her geeky tirade, and exits the room. She's feeling worried and attempting to relax when it appears like her mirror is trembling. In the middle of a nightmare, she experiences something similar to airline turbulence, and her roommate inquires as to whether or not she is alright. A box explicitly addressed to Zoe is discovered in front of their room by Zoe's roommate before she departs for the holidays. She delivers it to Zoe, claiming that it is from her professor. Her delivery also has the same black box. Ben arrives at work early and discovers that one of the black boxes has been left for him. It suddenly opens on its own, and he repeats the procedure after he hits and throws it. Meanwhile, Zoe tries to open the box, and she manages to do it very quickly. Jason is also watching YouTube tutorials at the same time to assist him with opening the package. When a piece of paper comes out of the box, the 3 of them realize they've succeeded in opening it. A Minot's escape room coupon is in the mail, and if they manage to escape, they will earn $10,000. Ben is standing in front of the Minot's building the next day. Before she enters the elevator, he expresses his gratitude to her for her military service. Danny rushes into the elevator with her at the last possible moment. He takes out a phone that he had snuck into the room. Amanda is the first person to enter the waiting area, which already has Mike, Jason, and Zoe seated. She walks to the front desk, but the rest of the staff tells her not to bother them. In the meantime, Mike is going on about an old childhood pet that had heterochromia. Danny steps in second to her. Jason and Danny have a conversation regarding the scar on Jason's hand, and Amanda inquires whether they are acquainted with Zoe, because she appears to be known to her. Ben is the last person to enter and greets everyone. Amanda becomes agitated after reading a story in the newspaper about a fire. Danny informs the other participants that he has already visited 93 escape rooms. That causes Jason to tease him, but Mike reassures Danny that his nephew is just like him, and that it was he who advised that he try out the Minot's room. Amanda claims that she's simply there for the money and nothing else. Danny explains to the other players how the rooms are usually operated. and Zoe inquires about how the game begins. He informs her that they must wait for the game master to arrive and transport them to the escape room. Ben gets to his feet to light another cigarette, but the doorknob snaps off when he comes in contact with it. Despite Mike's best efforts, Danny believes that they have already entered the escape room and are attempting to correct the situation themselves. When he gets closer to the door, he notices the oven dial. He believes it is most likely a combination lock, and he instructs everyone to search for clues. Everyone looks around the room in quest for something. Zoe notices a cup with an airplane on it, while Amanda comes across the name Dr. Wooten Yu, which she believes to be a clue. Mike picks up a copy of Fahrenheit 451 and discovers that it contains a screwdriver buried within it. Zoe suspects that the number 451 is the lock's combination and enters it into the door's keypad. Suddenly, the ceiling begins to glow bright red. In addition to generating heat, they have realized that it is doing so. Zoe attempts to deactivate the dial, but it remains in place. Amanda walks to the reception desk to see if they can get a hint after Danny indicates they can. Jason discovers a globe with a boat on it, which throws him for a while, but he quickly realizes that the lock on the window is the key. Initially, Ben intends to smash the glass with a fire extinguisher, but when he realizes that it was fake, he tosses it out. A heatwave begins to spread across the room, including the 4 columns. Everyone is terrified except Danny and Zoe, who discovers a key in the fire extinguisher. When she opens the window, they are surprised to find out that the receptionist is a mannequin. When the phone rings, everyone expects Jason to pick up the phone and answer. The message is pre-written and informs them that they must adhere to the regulations. He drops the phone. The window shutters go up, and more heaters come on to replace them. Amanda is having an anxiety attack, so Zoe and Amanda go to fetch some water for her to calm down. The burns on Zoe's neck are visible to her. The men are searching for clues, but they are at a loss for what to do as the room becomes increasingly heated. As soon as Zoe notices another hint regarding the coasters on the table, she dashes up to it and presses one of the coasters. She causes an escape in the ducts to be revealed. The exit only opens partially, therefore they must all press the coasters at the same time for it to be fully opened. Jason investigates the duct and discovers a route out. He needs the screwdriver that Mike possesses, so Amanda swaps places with him and allows him to get through the door. Jason unlocks the entrance to the opposite side. Amanda is the next person to be sent through the vent, and the others are holding the coasters with both hands. Zoe comes up with another solution to the dilemma. She fills a glass with water and sets it on the coaster, pressing it down firmly to secure it. Amanda, on the other hand, is terrified as she crawls into the duct. After a while, she gets a flashback to her time in Afghanistan. Zoe hears Amanda scream, and the rest of the group tells her to go after her. After filling the cups half full with water, Danny and Ben realize that they are half empty. They begin to quarrel, and the burner is brought into the room. Ben takes a sip of his booze, and the door to the exit swings open. They manage to flee in the nick of time as the room explodes. They enter the next room by leaping through the open fireplace. Danny is still giddy with excitement, believing that everything is still a game, while Amanda thinks that everything was true and wants to get out. Jason discovers another lock, while Danny attempts to persuade Amanda not to contact the police. While he continues to hand her the phone, there is no signal. Meanwhile, Zoe and Jason are on the lookout for clues, and Jason discovers the first key to one of the door's locks while searching for them. Then he discovers the second lock on the door, which requires a 7-letter phrase to be entered to be opened. When Ben notices animal skulls on the wall, they all scramble to find out what they're supposed to be saying. He experiences a flashback in which he drives intoxicated with his pals and sings Christmas carols to themselves. He instructs the others to try it with Rudolph and it is successful. Jason unlocks the door and the three of them begin going out of the home while Zoe and Ben remain inside. When the two of them leave the house, the door closes behind them. The next chamber has the appearance of being outside, and it's pretty chilly in there. Danny bangs his head on the walls of the chamber, which are made up of massive monitors. His descent sounds like ice is cracking when he comes to a stop on it. Danny is still under the impression that the room is safe. The vents begin to blast freezing air out at a rapid pace. He instructs the others to hunt for hints once more. Jason is the one who is in charge of finding the door. Zoe notices the words, "True North is a lie," engraved on a sled, which she believes is false. Mike discovers a fishing rod in a tree while Ben is attempting to light a cigarette. Amanda finds one coat and tells Zoe that they'll share it if they can't locate another one. Ben accidentally falls into a fishing hole, and Danny speculates that there could be a clue in the water beneath the surface. Mike suddenly appears with a fishing pole in hand. Meanwhile, the rest of the group is attempting to solve the puzzle. Zoe discovers a compass hidden in her coat pocket. She follows it north, but then she remembers what she read on the sled, turning around and heading back in the opposite direction. Zoe discovers yet another clue in the jaws of a stuffed bear, and returns to the group just as Ben wanders away to smoke his cigarette away from where they are standing. Zoe returns the item to its original location. Jason requests that the coat be given to him. Mike manages to get something onto the rod, but it's pretty heavy. They take out a frozen cube with a key inside. Jason inquires about Ben's lighter, then he tosses it at them, forcing Danny to grab it. In obtaining a lighter and turning around, he slips into the water and beneath the ice. The others see him and attempt to breach the ice to grab him. Eventually, they lose sight of him and he perishes into the water. Jason hands Amanda the coat, stating that she was correct in believing that the game is realistic. Mike and the rest of the gang turn against Ben, believing that he is to blame for Danny's death. They mistakenly believe he is the game master. He begins to criticize them all. Jason intervenes and reminds them that it is more essential to survive than to be insulted. They are finished, he informs them that they should use their body heat to pry the key from the ice. The temperature in the room begins to decrease. Jason gets a flashback in which he is on a boat with his friend, who is wearing a red jacket. Mike passes out, but Jason manages to pull the key out. They locate the door, and it opens in their direction. Just as they begin to approach it, the ice breaches and they dash inside at the last possible time once more. The next room has a bar where everything is turned upside down. The chamber begins to rise in height, and as it comes to a halt, the phone rings. Mike walks just under the phone, causing it to fall into his grasp. It all starts with a loud boom, followed by the sound of music. Jason notices that the door to the other room is open, but missing a doorknob. Mike observes that the 8 balls from the pool table have gone missing, and begins moving about to hunt for clues when the noise returns. Ben saves him from falling because a part of the floor has come loose from the floorboard. Amanda scales the bar and discovers a lockbox with 4 digits on the inside. Zoe discovers a sliding puzzle on the opposite wall and climbs over the hole to get to it. Mike climbs over to her side as well, assisting her with her climb. While she's working on the problem, another floor section comes crashing down, almost taking Jason with it. Ben jumps over to the problem side, and Zoe can't complete it at long last. They find out how to read and receive a 4-digit code, but it doesn't function properly when Amanda attempts to use it in the lockbox. Following yet another collapse, Mike and Ben scramble for the puzzle, which becomes unstable under their weight and begins to topple over. Mike is too scared to climb down, so Zoe takes his place and falls to the ground, banging her head on the floor. They are all yelling at her to get up when she gets a flashback of an aviation crash she was in, during which she was crying for help from her mother. Jason rouses her from her slumber and places her back against the wall. Zoe suggests that Amanda test the code in reverse, which she does, and it works. She discovers the doorknob inside the lockbox and proceeds to use it. Another section of the floor has come loose. After jumping over the pool table in an attempt to get across, Amanda drops the knob in the last section of the floor. As she descends, the noise begins to reappear, prompting her to throw the knob to Jason and grasps onto the floor, slinging it over the hole. She loses her footing and collapses. Jason walks up to the door and Mike follows him inside. Ben accompanies Zoe into the other room and remains with her to help her calm down. The next room has the appearance of a hospital. When they learned that all hospital beds look the same, they all started browsing through the book together. That is the bed they were in when they were in the hospital. Zoe examines one of the other beds and discovers that it belongs to Amanda. She was the lone survivor of an explosion that killed everyone else. Zoe contributes to the narrative as well. She was the sole survivor of an aircraft disaster that killed everyone else. When his boat was involved in an accident, Jason was the only one to survive. Apparently, due to hypothermia, his companion lost his wits, which caused him to swim away. Ben also recounts his experience of being the sole survivor in a vehicle accident, and Mike's experience of being the only survivor in a mining disaster. He gets a flashback to the mine as he informs them that his brother was killed in the accident. They begin to make connections between all of their mishaps and all that was in the room. Danny's paperwork is discovered by Zoe, who finds that he was also a lone survivor of an accident. She believes that the game is a contest of survival, in which the winner is determined by being the luckiest of the lucky. The television begins to play, and a countdown to exit the room appears on the screen. The three guys start seeking methods to escape from the room as soon as they enter it. They discover X-rays as clues, which Ben deduces are sign language and refer to an EKG. Because Zoe believes that if they continue to view the cameras, the gang would be unable to win, she begins breaking the cameras. Jason discovers the poison that will be discharged into the chamber after the countdown has ended, and then finds the EKG machine, which indicates that the correct heartbeat will open the door. Ben's heart rate is the first thing he tries, but when it doesn't work, he encourages Mike to give it a shot as well. His heart rate is elevated, but not sufficiently elevated. Jason wants to shock him to raise his heart rate, and he can persuade him to agree to do so as well. He manages to raise his heart rate, but he ultimately kills him. Ben is attempting to resurrect Mike as the poison begins to flood the room, as Zoe continues to destroy the cameras in the room. Jason attaches the EKG to himself and lowers his heart rate to be a safe level. The door swings open. Jason decides to go out, but Zoe is adamant about not going. When Ben follows Jason out via the vents, it is time for the door to be closed. Zoe is struggling to breathe and is crawling towards an oxygen mask. When Jason and Ben finally make it to the other room, they begin to argue. Ben accuses him of murdering not just Mike, but also a buddy of his who was aboard the boat with him. Jason advises him that survival is a decision, and that he should keep looking for clues, which he does, eventually discovering a hatch. They both grasp the hatch and open it at the same time. Suddenly, they begin to have hallucinations. Their hands were soiled with poison, and the riddle on the hatch instructed them to seek the source of the antidote. Ben discovers the antidote, but there is only one dosage available. Jason leaps on him, and the two of them struggle for it. Ben ends up murdering Jason and injecting himself with the antidote as a result of his actions. Ben bursts into the other room from behind the desk. That particular one appears to be the same as it did at the start of the film. Meanwhile, the cleaning team enters the hospital room and discover what they believe to be two dead on the ground. Suddenly, Zoe awakens and knocks them both to the ground as they search for the oxygen mask that had been hanging from the ceiling. She walks out of the room with a pistol that she had gotten from one of them. On the other hand, Ben is in the other room after he's made a mistake with the coding. As the wall closes in on him, he manages to climb inside the fireplace and escape the confines of the chamber. A disembodied voice begins speaking to him when he enters the building, informing him that his money is being bet on Jason. The game master comes and tells him that he has won the game. Ben tries to provoke him, but he only responds by explaining what the idea of the game is all about. In actuality, the game's clients are the most influential individuals globally, and they are looking for entertainment that has real stakes in it. When Ben receives another cigarette, the gentleman informs him that he didn't believe he could win. When he attempts to murder him, Ben stabs him in the leg with a piece of wood that had become lodged in his leg. It is shown on the monitor that Zoe and the man are both still in the game, and that she walks out and shoots at him. When the man tackles her and nearly kills her, Ben pushes him to the ground and shoots him in the head. The two of them walk out of the building at the same time. Ben is admitted to the hospital the next day and is in a stable condition. Zoe may be seen sitting at his side in the picture. In walks a detective who invites her to accompany him on his investigation. He leads her to the Minos building, guarded by police personnel on both sides of the street. Once inside, they will find that none of the rooms are still there. As a result, the detective does not trust what she is telling him regarding the escape rooms, because they have not discovered any proof to support her claims. No way out is written in the phrases, no way out. And she understands that it is an anagram for the words Dr. Wooten knew. The investigator, on the other hand, seems unconcerned and informs her that they must leave. Ben and Zoe are sharing a cup of coffee 6 months later. She then hands him a dossier that she has compiled on the others of their group, including how their deaths were made as though they were accidents. Her friend tells her that she has to let it go. She doesn't stop talking about what she's learned about the game so far. As a result of her deciphering the emblem, Zoe discovers that it included a skyscraper in Manhattan. She has even purchased plane tickets for the two of them to travel there. Ben doesn't agree with her proposal at first, but he eventually agrees to accompany her. One engine of a plane is on fire as it whizzes through the atmosphere. A stewardess is on the lookout for a clue when she discovers one in a suitcase. Rather than opening a cockpit door, the gadget takes the user to another mystery. As the two stewards struggle to figure out what is happening, a third steward advises the passenger to prepare himself for impact, that Zoe's and Ben's tickets have been intercepted, and that the game will proceed. And that's it. Hope you enjoyed it. And please leave a comment, like, and subscribe to the channel for more interesting movies to recap.